Good morning. Today is the 10th day of Tevet, the fast of the 10th of Tevet, and the 22nd of December. And we're continuing with our study of Reb Mendel Borer in Derech Mitzvosecha, page 392. So now we said that when the temple was destroyed, then it's not that the reasons are gone. The reasons are still there. What was accessible in the past is still accessible, but you can't access it in its spiritual form. So the only way you can access it is through material causes. So what he says here, that what happened here is that the effect that God wanted was that you would teach. The cause now, instead of being that you would know where to go and what to say to whom, because the heavens were opened, let's call it, and you saw the causes, you saw the reasons behind things, you understood the purpose. Now you don't understand the purpose, you don't know the causes. So what's left is just the effect. And the cause is now engarbed in a material reason. The material reason being, in this case, that the teacher needs to make his living. שהמוכיח והדורש צריך לפרנסה. He needs parnasa. So what does that mean? הוא מוכרח להיות מקבל מהמון. And he's dependent now on the public who hire him to come and teach. It's a very simple idea. How do I know where to go? Because I need my parnasa. So any place that is willing to pay for it, that's like Hashem sending me there. So the cause is strangely engarbed within reality.
Yes, I mean
it's become very material.
But the cause is.
But it's still the cause. It's still coming
yes,
from God.
Yes.
We'll abstract this in a moment.
Yeah.
Maybe not today, but hopefully we'll abstract this soon. Maybe today. But here he's just talking about one simple effect. The simple effect, the simple outcome here is that people need to learn. That's what God wanted.
That's the effect, yes.
That's the outcome.
Right.
How did I get there? When there was a temple. So the person knew that if I go there in this place and speak to them and teach them, first of all, they'll be open to listening. And secondly, it could even be that because I taught, the cause is now the teaching, they will also give me, sustain me in terms of money. It could also be, but then the money is not the effect, the cause, it's the effect.
Yeah.
Here, the money has become the cause. That's exile. That what is material became guiding the principle guiding the spiritual. That's exactly exile. What do we mean by exile? That everything is backwards. That what should have been guiding the world is spiritual concerns. But what's guiding it now is material concerns instead. Both sides still exist. It's just that the relationship between them has been flipped over. Okay.
But that's in the world. I mean, we've never. It's an ism that really is the main ism we're fighting right now. Not it's not ideological.
Yeah. It's just important to know that exile means everything is flipped upside down. And that's why he has to come and teach them, because he needs the money. So again, the money became the cause. Why is this? And this is all because the mother, which we said was the cause, has now descended. When the temple was destroyed, says the Zohar, the mother is now descended into the lowest place. Where's the mother now? So we have in God's name Yud Kei Vav Kei, so we have two Heys. And the mother he was talking about as the cause, right? The natural cause of things and so on. That's the first Hey. So now it's descended to the lower Hey. It's now in the lower Hey. And the lower Hey has always been what we call the manners of the world, the material world. So that's where it's stuck now. It was cast away. There's many times in the Zohar that he gives the parable of exile being that your mother was cast away. Ki bechet shulchaimchem is the pasuk it's in Isaiah, that because of her sins your mother has been cast away. She's been thrown into exile. And the Zohar always has this, that really the father, Hashem, he's upset at the children, at the Jewish people. He's not upset at the mother. The mother is like the Shechina. But because the child goes into exile, so the mother also goes into exile. She doesn't want to part with the child. There's another way that this is said in the Talmud. In a simple way, they say that once the Jewish people have been exiled, the Shechina was exiled with them. And there's another very important statement that's analyzed in length, that when when the people were exiled, what does it mean that they were exiled? So it's not just that people were no longer in Jerusalem, that they weren't in the land of Israel, they were taken to a foreign land. That's the most external,
yes, it's external,
symptom of exile. The more internal symptom, says the Talmud, is that the Sanhedrin was exiled, and it went through 10 exiles. Meaning it started off in the Sanhedrin Hall, the Lishkata Gazit as it's called, on the Temple Mount, half in the holy section, half in the mundane section, the profane, not the holy. And then they started moving around in Jerusalem itself, until eventually they had to go to Yavne, and then they went to Usha, they came back to Tzipori, then they went back to Usha again, and finally they ended up in Tveria, and that was the last stop. After that they dispersed. The Sanhedrin wasn't functioning anymore.
Was it a 72-member?
Yeah,
all
71.
That period,
Right. I don't know if that's a good question. I don't know if they were able.
I don't remember.
No, I don't know if they had 71 all the time. Could be that
okay.
it was very hard to get 71.
Yeah.
In any case, and so now.
But it had its same powers.
Right.
It didn't have all the powers, but yeah. It was,
and just as the Talmud finishes saying that, it says also that the Shekhinah itself, the divine presence, also went through 10 exiles. And there it explains it in a different way. And again, it's a very deep statement that they say where it went to. The Shekhinah moved from the Holy of Holies, it moved out and started leaving. And then eventually, like we said, the Shekhinah, which is like the mother, it accompanies the Jewish people in their exile. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is what pretty much Mendel Bohr said. But now, listen to the continuation. The continuation is very shocking. I mean, this is very eye-opening until now, but the continuations, when we'll abstract it, is much more powerful. ומכל מקום, כתיב שלח תשלח את האם. It says there is a difference between when you understood what outcomes were necessary from the divine spirit or from prophecy and the way you understand it now. To say that now, because I need livelihood, it's the same thing as like it was in the temple, it's not true. It's something different. And now he explains why it's different. Because it says, Shaleach teshalach et ha'em. You shall send away the mother bird, but it doesn't say it, send away the mother bird, shlach et ha'em. It says, Shaleach teshalach. It's a unique Hebrew format for using a verb, where you double the verb, and really what it means is, continue doing this again and again. So it's like you should send the mother bird again and again and again away. What do you mean by that?
If it comes back.
So the simple meaning that the sages say is that if the mother bird comes back, you have to send her away again. That's all.
Yeah.
Why? Because, again, if the simple reasoning is that the whole reason we send the mother bird away is because we don't want her to see. Animals feel most of the pain when they see something, when they actually, it's very hard for them to imagine the situation. There's no conceptual thinking. So if the mother bird comes back and smells the nest again and this and that, whatever it is, send her away to prevent her from having pain. So that's the simple reasoning. But here he says, no, really what this is saying, this is how the Zohar understands it also, that there are situations in which you have to keep sending the mother bird away. But you could also understand this not as a situation, but as something that is inherent within the sending away. The sending away should be such that if you need to send it away, it should be to weaken the bond, to weaken the connection, like with a mother bird. But here I'm thinking about now conceptually. I want to weaken the bond between
The mother,
the cause and the effect. Because here we're saying that the children are the effect, the chicks that you took is the effect, right? The outcome that you wanted. And the mother bird is the cause. So I want to weaken the connection between the cause and the effect. That's how conceptually we're going to start thinking about this. And he says, what does this mean? שלא יעשה עיקר מן הסיבה של לקיחת הממון. וצריך להיות שלח תשלח. He shouldn't make the main issue receiving the money. Meaning, he's asking, where should I go teach? They say, here we're willing to pay you. So he comes. Now what happens if he taught, and they don't want to pay him what they promised? So, is this something holy now, that if you don't pay me, there was no reason for me to come? He says, no. Don't think that the cause here is as strong as it was in the time of the temple. In the time of the temple, when you heard it from God, there was sanctity to what you were going to do. Here, it's just a placeholder. Don't think that this is really the cause itself. Don't make this now into a big deal. Because then what will you think? That I should only teach where only if they pay me everything they promised. No, it's not that simple. It's a sign. It's more like a placeholder. It's not the way it was during the time of the temple. Say it another way. In the time of the temple, if I understood that a necessary outcome of my abilities was to go do X and Y, and I went and did that, because I understood that that's what they want from me in heaven. So I went and did that, and I didn't get the outcome that I was hoping for in terms of, let's say, in terms of money. I wasn't paid. Why wasn't I paid? I don't know, they didn't have. So okay, so in the time of the temple, it wasn't a big deal. Why? Because I knew that I had done what was expected of me.
Yes.
Here, I don't know, the only way I know is because they give me the money. So it says, don't look at it that way. If they don't give you the money, you still did what was expected of you. So that's the first thing. But we're going to have to abstract this whole thing, because just to leave it the way that he's saying it now, it seems very, applicable to our livelihood, but how is it applicable to the rest of life? And this thing really, when you abstract it, it touches upon every area of life, and I guess we'll do that next week. But let's see if we can get a little bit, another minute in. Sure. Why should you not make it into a big deal, the outcome, or rather the cause here, which is receiving money for what I did? כי באמת אין זה תכלית הכוונה, רק שהכוונה שעל ידי זה יכול להיות אחר כך ואת הבנים תיקח לך, שהוא בחינת התורה המצוות שיוכיח ולמד לעם ודי למבין. So, like we just said, that it's not, the purpose was not really your livelihood. That wasn't the purpose. Still is, the chicks are still the teaching that you do. And so even if they didn't give you everything that they promised, or that to begin with it wasn't everything that you needed, you should still go do it, because still the purpose is the teaching itself. אבל בלא סיבה אין ראוי מעצמו להגיד לעם ולהוכיחם. Now we had something very important, and we'll finish with this. He says, back then, even now, it's almost impossible to teach without being in some, at some level, moralizing. Moralizing. It's like, it's almost impossible to teach
without
moralizing the audience. Right. It's almost impossible, because every time you teach, hopefully you should be moralizing yourself first. You should be focusing on yourself. But for certain, you're also doing it to the audience. So he says, what this does say is, don't teach people, because don't castigate them. Don't moralize them. Don't preach to them, unless you see that the cause is in place. Meaning the cause is that they're willing to pay you for it. Because if they're not willing to pay you for it, nothing good is going to come out of it. When somebody pays you and he says, come, we want you to speak.
That's a contradiction to what we were saying.
No, because if you go somewhere and you say, oh, the important thing is for me to speak.
Yes.
The important thing is for me to teach.
Yes, right.
What you'll end up doing is you'll end up angering people. because they're not open to hearing, because there's always moralizing in teaching. There's always like a certain condescension.
Yeah.
So they won't be able to hear you. And in fact, it will cause hatred.
Yes.
So he says this is, what you see here is that the cause also, it also indicates that there's an openness to hearing what you're doing. So you need to pay attention to that.
Yes.
That not to go, and he says this is the flip side, don't go somewhere out of your own initiative.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Don't do it because you feel that you need to fix these people. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. They have to be willing to hear. What's a sign that they're willing to hear? They're willing to pay for it. They're willing to pay for it. Okay, so they take it in a certain way. So this is some kind of protection on the whole process. But next week we'll abstract it to every area of life, because this touches on every single area. He's just talking as an example about how to see this with livelihood and teaching.